So what does the Dokkan community and some of your favorite YouTubers think of the new pity system? How's it, everybody? CelticLink here. We're back for another Dokkan battle video. In today's video, we are talking about the new pity coin system introduced during this year's 2024 worldwide campaign. And kind of just talking a little bit about how y'all feel about it. I know I'm a little late for this, but I wanted to collect as many opinions on this. I posted to several different places. I posted to Twitter, on my own community, through Discord, and a few others, and I reached out to some very special people to get some various opinions on the exchange for these coins. So let's go ahead and lay out the facts real quick before we jump on in and kind of see what people are thinking here. So first and foremost, as you guys can see, as many of you guys know who have been summoning already on the worldwide campaign, is as you summon, you can gain one of these two types of worldwide campaign coins, either the red Dokkan Festival coins or the teal Carnival coins, and they are only available from each of the Carnival banners. That's right, so your old coins cannot be used for this banner, right? After 2,500 stones, right, used on either of the banners, right, or 500 coins, right, whichever you get first, you can exchange for either the new Fizz Super Saiyan Trio or the Tech LR Carnival Broly. And should you not need these at the end of the celebration, you can convert your coins into either Dokkan Fest coins or Carnival coins. And the neat thing about these coins is you can exchange either or, right? So let's say you dumped in 1,000 stones, right? And so you end up with, you know, however many coins, and within that 1,000 you manage to get a copy of the Fizz Super Saiyan Trio. Well, you can go ahead and take these coins right here and exchange them for these coins to later use on the Carnival banner instead, in case you don't pull Broly, right? So, I mean, there's a little bit of leeway in terms of this, because these, according to the devs, this applies to all banners in the worldwide celebration, so is the part 2 banners as well. So I mean, there's a little bit of leeway there, but I mean, it's still kind of rough. 2,500 stones is the total cost needed to use to get 500 of either of these coins. Now you can mitigate that cost by exchanging SSRs that you do have rainbowed already, but it's still going to be pretty steep. Take it to somebody who had to go all the way to pity for one of these guys, you're still looking anywhere between 1,500 to 1,700 stones to make up one of these. So it is a rough time. So the question is, knowing that, well, what do you guys think? Is this a fair system? That was the question I had posed to the community, right? What do you think of the system? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it not enough? So let's just go ahead. Let's start with the bigwigs, right? So I did reach out to a couple of our YouTuber friends to see what they came up with and what were their thoughts. So first up, we have Minato here. Shout out to Minato Slash for responding to this and wording this oh so eloquently. So Minato says that essentially, he thinks the pity system is not that great considering other game pity system, right? But in terms of a starter for Dokkan specifically, he likes it. Being able to guarantee 1 of 4 units if you're a spender is nice. Many people walk into major celebrations with more than the required stones saved up through smart summoning and planning. You can summon on Carnival banners and exchange them for Dokkan Festival coins, which is a really huge plus. So this is what I was talking about. You can exchange your coins back and forth, which is really, really nice. The requirement needs to be lower, but it's fine for what it is, right? So basically saying that the cost is steep. 2,500 stones is steep, But, right, knowing that most players usually save for worldwide or for anniversary, right, you're probably walking in with to those times with more than enough stones to pity at least one unit. So, I mean, I guess that I like the thought process here. I don't want to. I'm going to reserve judgment till the end. I would like to hear all opinions on this before I sort of give my thoughts on that. So let's go ahead. Let's take a look over at another YouTuber. Ningen was kind enough to respond to my query on this. Ningen says that he thinks the pity system is certainly not perfect, but it is good and certainly better than if we had nothing. If we had had this exact system for the anniversary, Ningen would have been able to get the gammas with the amount of stones he had to spend even after the 77 multi and left the ante without him, right? Many of you guys who watched Ningen and his channel know that he did not get the gammas out of anniversary, so it would have been nice to have during then. He does think that people are too focused on how difficult it is to have the number of required stones right now, especially on global after so many back-to-back banners, right? But if this system was going to be in place moving forward for the worldwide and potentially even anniversary, with them being 6 months apart, after all the sync will be happening now, it will be much easier for free-to-play players to achieve the enough stones when the big celebrations roll around. So really good thought process there. I do feel for Ningen there not being able to pull the gammas, so I kind of see the what's the word? I kind of see sort of the connection there that he has to wanting a system like this. So really, really good thought process there. Thank you. Shout out to Ningen for that. And then we got another YouTuber, ToonRami. Shout out to ToonRami. I love you, man. This is the reason that the video took so long. I was waiting for Toon's response to the video, and you know, dude is a beast. He works so hard. Out of many of the Dokkan tubers that I've been watching since I started my Dokkan journey, right? I've never seen a guy put in as much work as this guy did. So I'm not certainly not upset about him for that, but Toon has a very interesting thought process on this, and I want to share that with you guys. So he says, having a light at the end of the tunnel is better than no light at all. This is a good pity when you also include extra coins from coming from an SSR. So this is what I was talking about in the beginning. When you trade in those coins you get from the SSRs, right? You think because of the 1,000 pity precedent set on legendary summons and the sheer volume of consecutive banners on global, it has caused the reception to this system to be met with extra hate. They should have introduced the pity into Dokkan with this first, with the steeper cost. Since Dokkan is an older gacha with only one revenue source, stones, they are more likely to be stingy on this sort of thing, unlike newer gachas with alternative sources, equips, costumes, etc., who can afford to provide more illusion of saving by giving generous pity and discounts. Too long doesn't read. Pity good, execution bad. So really good. So I think he points out something really good by comparing this to other gachas, right? Many other gachas have systems that give you like support memories in other games are right something you have to do a gacha for, right? I think like My Hero comes to mind there. Special equipment, right? When you guys play, if any of you guys play games like Genshin or a few others of those, like your weapons are that, or like I think like Seven Deadly Sins does that too. I don't know much about that one though. Grand Cross, is that what it's called? Yeah. Anyways, yeah. So I mean, a lot of gachas do that, right? So they have a little more for pity. And you know, and because they're newer, right, they can offer these more things. Dokkan is probably one of the oldest gachas out there, and somehow still up and running. So I like Toon's point here about having that because they introduced the yellow coin pity system, which is 1,000 coins, or it's 1,000 stones equaling about 200 yellow coins in order to pick up a pity unit, right? It was extremely generous, combined with discounts, combined with guaranteed features every 2 multis, right? It made it seem super generous, but it was applied to banners nobody would ever summon on anyways. And I think that's something that we have to consider, that, right, comparing it to the yellow coins is really, it's the same, but it's not. I mean, very rarely is a yellow coin on the level of in terms of like actual viability. Very rarely is a yellow coin ever on the level of, right, their Dokkan Fest and Carnival counterparts. There's some exceptions, Selmax being one and Bulma last year being another, but for the most part, right, this tends to be true. So having that introduced on the yellow coin banners, I think really spoiled us and kind of, I don't want to say gave us the wrong impression, but it certainly set a precedent that maybe we weren't ready for. But I'm going to tie all of that together here towards the end. So shout out to Toon, shout out to Ningen, shout out to Minato for responding to my question. Really appreciate it. Honestly, I didn't expect them to respond at all. And the fact that they did, I mean, I'm super happy, super blessed for that. So thank you guys for that. So with that in mind, let's hear from the rest of you guys, right? Because you guys are the ones who are summoning on these banners. All right. Most of you guys, in fact, I'm willing to bet a lot of you that respond didn't even spend money to do that. So I'm curious to see what you got. So shout out to Dark Sun Gaming. He hasn't really been active in a while, but many of you guys know he's one of the OGs in terms of smaller content creators. In fact, he's one of the guys who helped me get my start into content creation. So he says that he actually thinks the format is pretty good. The cap is 2,500 stones, and that's assuming you don't baba the SSRs along the way. All right, you can get to choose somebody that you really want in exchange for all those coins. So my question back to him was, how does he feel about the price of 500 coins? And he does think that 500 is a bit much, but knowing you can carry him across a four-part banner, right, 2-part celebration, it can kind of work. I mean, the reality we have to remember is that, right, and I think Dark Sun kind of hits the nail on the head. You can focus on one unit and pick the one up you don't get. The reality is, for most players, you aren't typically, right, especially free-to-play players, right? We have to remember this. Chances of a free-to-play player, right, even entering with 2,500 stones, walking out of a major celebration with 4 LRs, with all 4, all right, that's a pretty big ask. So knowing that you are guaranteed at a minimum 2 if you brought in 2,500 stones, it's a pretty good deal, right? Moving on, Mr. Tux, we got, he was shafted heavily on the trio, but the pity is what actually got him the chance to get them. So sounds like he's pretty appreciative. Jumbo Shark, right? Another up-and-coming Dokkan tuber, right? Used to be pretty active on the streaming side of things, but now starting to jump into the content creation. So shout out to Jumbo for putting this out there. So simply put, he'll never use that amount of stones on a banner. Most likely he'll never get to use it. But he does understand why it is so high, all right? And I'm actually going to let Proton kind of explain this. So shout out to Proton 10 and G. Most of you guys know who this guy is, right? He is one of the big data miners for Dokkan, always posting those great assets for the data download. So Proton says that it is a good system, that people complaining are simply at a point that they just don't have the stones to take advantage of it right now. I want to hone in on that statement. Right now, you're going to see this a lot here. They've seen way too many people drop thousands of stones during big celebrations and not get the one card they want so much. This will somewhat save the celebration for those people. If you're a paying player, right, you'll take advantage of it, and if you're a free-to-play player, you should be taking advantage of it if you played smart throughout the year. Is it more favorable to playing players? Of course, right? Of course, they're the ones who are funding the Bandai Namco projects now. Again, right now, Proton qualifies this in the beginning. Right now, if you are a paying or if you are a free-to-play player, you should be planning to take advantage of this when it rolls around during celebrations like Anniversary. Of course, free-to-play players, and Ningen hit this right on the head. Free-to-play players are not in a good place to take full advantage of this just because of the proximity of Worldwide to the release of Tech UI Goku, the release of Cell Max, the anniversary, right? It really is rough there to have that placement. So, I mean, it's kind of like what ToonRami says as well. It's a good idea, terrible execution in terms of time. But all right, sounds like Proton does think it is a good idea. Vector, shout out to Vector for responding, right? Objectively good, objectively best. I don't know about objectively, right? That is a matter of opinion, but all right, he is complaining that it's 2,500 stones. It's Dokkan, count your blessings, it's getting anything. It's a bit of a pessimistic attitude, I get it, right? Dokkan tends to be very stingy with anything. Heck, you know, half the time we expect discounts on banners that we would normally get discounts in, and then they show up without discounts, right? Like, it's sometimes with Dokkan, we just gotta be happy they did anything at all, but I do think that they have been making bigger steps at listening to what the community wants, and simply fact of it, simply put, and I think this is kind of where I can agree with Vector saying that this is objectively good, is that it is living proof that they do listen to what the community wants. The sync is proof that they do listen to what the community wants. Is it the best system ever? I'll get to my opinion at the end, but you know, it is a start in the right direction of us getting something. King Hitman, right? Many of you guys know King, right? He's been on the channel once or twice. We've had a few conversations, right, on streams and whatnot, right? So King thinks that the idea of Pity finally arriving and all 3 main coin levels having it is now beyond due. Right, it's a mad hefty price. I don't think they'll lower it, but it's great for non-whale players to know exactly where that benchmark is for the banner. Right, and he has a part 2. Oh, he actually has a few. All right, in order to be able to say, right, save 2k stones, once again, mad hefty, for the 10th anniversary, and prime their stones for peak value across the game's entire life. Instant banners drop, and still gather the remaining stones throughout celebration, right? This is an important note to mind, right? You could walk in with, say, 1,000 stones into an anniversary and still possibly achieve pity due to most of these types of celebrations, anniversary worldwide, providing nearly 1,100 to 1,500 stones, depending on the size of the celebration, right? So that's something to keep in mind as well, right? They know that we have 700, 800, 900 plus stones over the course of 30 days. They pick up, yeah, so this is exactly what I was just saying, right? You know, you'll get pretty darn close to it, especially when you also consider any rainbow SSRs that you are trading in. Of course, it is now more difficult for Dokkanners to spend wisely, knowing that this is a thing, right? If you are a paying player, I mean, you are almost guaranteed to go to pity now, knowing that this is there, right? That is the, I mean, it's anybody who's played like Fire Emblem Heroes or Pokemon Masters, you know what's up. Like, what the pity there, like, if you got it, you're probably going for it, right? So I mean, it's a good point. I think Hitman here makes a really good point, especially knowing exactly where the benchmark is. So again, it all comes down to timing. Many people you've seen have hit on this so far, right? So we got Shadow here, right? Glad they finally implemented the system on a major banner like this, but the price is very steep, going to leave many players without a chance to get the characters, especially global players coming out, right? So again, this keeps coming up, and I understand it, and I think this is probably the most valid criticism I think of its implementation, right, is its timing. So, right, all right, he knows the sentiment is to skip other banners and save for bigger banners, and while he does agree, it is still asking for an awful lot of stones for just one copy. What if somebody comes in with 3,000, gets very unlucky, and that something happens, now they're stuck with only being able to get 1 unit. 2 at the most with the stones we get from the celebration. The gold coin LR pity is very reasonable and fair, but maybe raise it to 1,500 if you disagree, but that's about it. Yeah, so yeah, okay, so I mean, I think Shadow here lays it out perfectly, right? It is it can be a steep price, but maybe yellow coin price is just a bit too low. Track Fiend opinion is that he'd rather have it than not. The fact that it exists means we have a baseline to improve on. I think that's a good approach, right? Right? It's kind of along what Vector is saying too. The fact that we've got anything right now is a step in the right direction. Now we offer feedback, right? That is the key. We offer positive feedback in order to achieve the results we want, right? Guarantee at the end of this celebration there will be a survey, and that is where we need to voice our opinions, offer praise, but also offer constructive feedback without being mean, of course, right? They can't improve unless we let them know what needs to be improved upon, and they are certainly showing that they are willing to listen. CelticLink, good, but it kind of screws over free-to-play players because there's no way most free-to-play players are able to resist summoning on the anniversary banners and tech UI. Yeah. So in this specific scenario, as I've mentioned before, right, same thing, right? The proximity of this release to the Global's anniversary is probably the biggest threat to this, to the implementation, right? And it's a valid criticism, and it's just an unfortunate victim of Global being unsynced. But hopefully this isn't a problem in the future. Toxic Jordan, straight up, having pity is better than no pity. It means more good news for the life of the game. Pity is easy to win. Pity is easy to obtain. That means they aren't making money, and if they aren't making money, the game is dying, right? And I think that is a good point, right? When they start making it too easy, that means people aren't paying, right? And we need those paying players to continue the life of the game. So I understand where they're coming from, but at the same time, right, as many people have mentioned, the price does seem a bit high. Razor, something is better than nothing. This will be extremely beneficial for free-to-play players if they do it during an anniversary, now that we know they will implement it, right? If we assume moving forward that this will be implemented during anniversary, which for Global will now be in February, along with JP, we got 6 months to build up stones. Every celebration offers anywhere between 1,000 at worldwide to 250 to 350 stones per month, and I think January tends to be the most loaded in stones, with offering near 500 to help players utilize the step-ups, right? So, I mean, you got a pretty good chance to build up some stones between now and January. So I do think, that's a good point, is remembering that while it sucks right now, we're possibly going to have this during anniversary in 6 months. Water Buffalo Man, shout out to him. Y'all know him. We just did a collab with him the other day. Personally don't mind the 500 coin amount, and if it is actually set up in a way that global players who slapped with the banner after banner can physically get close enough to the summons alone to get 500 coins over the whole celebration, or just in the first 2 parts, you think the exchangeability with the 2 coins and the biggest benefit in the direction is to why you think 500 won't be too hard, right? We know that, again, this is what I said in the beginning, being able to trade those coins back and forth to what you need is one of the biggest benefits of this. Across 4 banners, across an entire 11 to 1500 stone celebration, there's a pretty good chance you'll get the coins you need in one direction or another. Are you going to get all 4 LRs? Probably not, but that is a realistic approach for free-to-play players. Rody, shout out to Rody for responding. 500 coins required is a little bit much. However, you think it's fine given the 500 coins across 4 separate banners. The fact that you can exchange rainbow SSRs for the coins really helps reduce the amount. It is a definite W, right? So it is a plus, and it certainly helps. You probably won't need to spend the full 2,500 stones, but I'll tell you again, like I mentioned in my experience, just simply due to the types of SSRs I was pulling, it was closer to about 1,700 stones spent before I achieved the pity mark. So it really depends, right? Iggy, shout out to Iggy for responding. Objectively horrible, all right? So complete opposite. Average pity in games is something like 20 multis. Some give you even the unit in 10, while all being significantly cheaper to whale on top of it. Dokkan being expensive and on top of the 15 multis makes it so bad. So, yeah, I think that is worthy of noting, and a few others have mentioned that before, right? Compared to other gachas, right, it does come sooner, right? If I remember, so I used to play Fire Emblem Heroes. It was around, I think, 20 to 40 pulls, I think. I can't remember exactly, but it was somewhere around there. Actually, I don't think it was 40. 40 is a bit much, right? Yeah, I think it was around 20 where you could get the unit. Somebody correct me on that in the comments, but it wasn't nearly as much as what the equivalent cost in Dokkan. Plus, Fire Emblem is a lot less stingy with currency, so there is that as well, right? Rock 2,500 stones for singular units in a year as a free-to-play. You get, what, 2 to 3 pities? Is a joke. Of course, it's better than nothing, but for most players, it's still nothing as maybe, and maybe they'll have 2.5k. For Annie, Wales, congrats, you deserve this. Anyone else, nothing to celebrate. So I did pose the question to them, what would be a fair price then, right? So if we're pushing back to say that 2.5 is not a fair price, then what is? All right, so their response was that it's hard to tell. 1k, realistically 1.5k could guarantee 3 to 4 major units throughout the year, and have 1 to 2 left for ones you really like. We'd have to see how does that balance on small spenders and whales spending less, right? That's a good point, right? We have to consider how will this impact the spending of those big spenders in the future. Etsu, all right, this is good for whales, bad for free-to-play players. 2,500 stones is a bit too much to ask, right? Ryan, it'll be cool if they do this pity system for the 10th anniversary, but it's impractical for most global players currently. Again, there it is again. Currently, not great for global players, but the ability to convert Dokkan Fest and Carnival coins is nice. All right, Tide will say that is great, is how they handle the WWC pity, but in general is... but bad if this is general pity, right? Like, so like if they implement this on Dokkan Fest banners in the future. 2.5k for a unit is good because you can switch coins and get the unit you need. However, regular DFV, that is way too much. Personally, should be lowered to 1.5 or 1k. Yeah, I definitely could see them in the future when they implement this into the Dokkan Fest banners. Should they do it, we'll probably see a similar pricing of 1k, right? Possibly even lower, because I feel like Dokkan because regular Dokkan Fest TURs already are only 400 red coins over time. That is the they might even be lower. It might be 800 stones or something for Dokkan Fest TUR, but again, across the 4 banners, I think people really like that aspect of it, so it's something to consider. Twitch gains, right? You think people are being babies complaining about 2,500 stones, 2,500 stones for the highest tier unit to share between banners. If they continue, all of these major celebrations would be a huge W, right? I don't know that they're being babies. That part I definitely disagree with, but I do understand, right, having the W for this being... throughout all of the celebrations. Dude Jito is happy because, of course, it saved him from the shaft. Nightwinger, considering Global just came off Annie and Cell Max, right? This is unreasonable amount of stones to expect players to grab for one banner type. It is great that we have pity, awesome, but it should be more reasonable. 1.5k, 2k is silly. So I like that they lead with what they think would be fair. So I do appreciate that, right? Always better to offer solutions or what you think might be better instead of just simply, you know, complaining. So I do appreciate Nightwinger for doing that. DBC Elliott does work for him. They already have 1 copy for the second part and probably will buy the Carnival LR and summon on the Dokkan Fest, right? Nick, great, even for free to play, we just have to save 1.5-ish stones between big celebrations and then what they'll give out. Yes, this is what I'm talking about. If you can lead up into with at least 1,000 to 1.5, you're probably going to become pretty close to pity throughout the celebration once you include what you're turning in. Dokkanites Unite, the mainly a free-to-play player, sacrifice most of the whole year, save 7k for anniversary, and you think it's a great way to reward players who study for celebrations, I think. Yeah, as a newer player, you can probably get somewhere around that. As a regular player, you're probably, as I mentioned in a few other videos, you're probably going to be seeing more around 2.5 to 3k per year. I actually think it's closer to 4, but I think that really depends on certain celebrations, but it's actually it's only a pretty hefty amount. Actually, yeah, it is closer to 4 when you consider that both Annie and Worldwide are giving near 3k combined. So yeah, it is closer to 4. Bully Maguire, you feel like 500s is way too much, but they gave us more content about the worth of 2500 Dragonstone Celebration, then it's fine. But right now, we barely have any content. We just had Anniversary, UI, Cell Max, and we have no stones. Yeah, again, the fact that they push so much, especially with UI and Cell Max not giving us a proper celebration with them, we ended up losing out on a lot of extra stones to be able to properly take advantage of that. So I do think that's fair. Sacred, it's a good start, but it's too high of a price. All right, yeah, so seeing that again. All right, should be more like the silver coins. All right, L, it's good for smart free-to-play and spenders. You think most people who don't like it want to get pity as soon as the character's released, but that's not realistic. All right, unless you walk in with the 2.5k, but you do think you should save around, yeah, okay, so again, save it around 1.5 to 1.8 for the major celebrations, and you could be good. Whippy, the opinion from a veteran player. All right, it is good pity, accessible for any and WWC under normal circumstances. It's just horrible that of the implementation due to the timing. Yep, totally agree there. All right, Big Wave X. Wow, I'm actually realizing there are a lot of responses, more than I expected. Right, so basically only good for pay to play, realistically, unless you never summon. You're not getting this as free to play. I wouldn't say never summon, but yeah, I mean, you should be saving your stones throughout the year. Most players do this anyways for anniversary, so I mean, it does make sense. Zeus, horrible. If they want to make the system do it properly, we should be glad we're getting anything. No, other games have pity without being this greedy. Honkai Star Rail, max you need is 18 multi. Same with Genshin. Wu is 16. Masters is 13. Yeah, I knew it was somewhere around there for Masters. So let's not act like it's good. Yeah. So I mean, I think those are fair criticisms. Comparing it to other gachas is a fair criticism, especially when theirs are far more generous. But I think Toon did mention it, right? We also have to consider that these are much, much newer. I don't think Masters has any of those other things, but like Wu, what is it? Wu, I honestly don't know what that game is. But Honkai Star Rail, right, and Genshin, they have equipment that you can also summon for. So, as Toon mentioned, that is a factor. All right, we also have DOKKAN'S here. It's fine, especially because you can trade the dupes. Almost 90% of the stones are saved for big celebrations anyways. So, all right, that's something worthy of note, right? Could it be better? Sure, but he's not going to complain. All right, the Zero Mortal plan should be 1,000 stones, just like yellow coins. People call this good, but have you ever gone past 2k to get a unit? It's the worst feeling ever. Yeah, no, totally agree. All right, so good. While the pity is garbage, at least it's a step in the right direction. Good. All right, Albany. You feel like 2,500 stones is too much for free-to-play players, especially when they'll only have 2,500 stones, maybe during the anniversary. At most, 2,000 or more is reasonable. But definitely feel like it should have been less. Yeah, okay, that's pretty much seems to be the sentiment here. Mickey D's, maybe reduce the cost to like 25 summons instead of 50. It's like half the price. Yeah, I mean, I could see that. That would put you more like at like 1,500 stones, right? Horrible if you're a long-time player. It takes around 40 if you're lucky, 30 multis. If you pulled a coin to the dupe, it would have been 25 multis, like Breach Blade of Souls. Yeah, okay, I see that. I can see that. I do understand that. Steezy, personally, you liked it. You were able to summon both using all your stones and still get both on summons. And if you keep summoning, you just use the pity to get a free character in part 1 or 2 without spending a single stones. Insert joke here, could be 1k. Alright, Natsuname, a little disappointed that they had to lock it behind the WCE coins. Maybe one-time purchase, but overall, genuinely very happy. So I'm gonna talk about this at the end. The comparison of the old coins that we've had versus these coins. But that is a good point. All right, 7th, we have good. We have pity, but 25 is too much, right? So that's pretty much, it's basically the equivalent of $500, which is a huge amount of money for in-game currency. Middle of the road, in my opinion. You feel that they should have kept it just as the old red and teal coins and used the same coins. One copy would not mean, oh, no one will summon because dupes. They will summon for dupes if the character is good enough. I do agree, but at the same time, I don't think as many would summon as people are thinking, especially if we're saying we need to save for the next time that this happens, right? But let's come here. Sen, completely bad. All right, Dokkan gives out a lot more currency than other games, but nobody has the amount of stones needed to guarantee one copy. And again, this is more due to the placement of this over on global, right? Dokkan's dupe system is more necessary than other gacha games. I think that's fair, right? A lot of units are heavily dupe required. Right, Nidosphere, you think it's a bad system? They should have made it 300 new coins or just kept the old coin system. All right, and finally we're reaching the end here. MO, it is worse version of something we already had, and it's impossible to get it's a worse version of something we already had, and it's impossible for anyone to think it's good. And Nidosphere thinks it should have been 200 new coins or 500 old coins. It's not unfair to stock your old coins to get new units. It's not unfair that whales have a bunch that they paid and they summoned to earn those coins in some way or shape. All right, so that is all of the Twitter responses. So many people responding here that I did not anticipate. Thank you all for everybody who responded here on Twitter. This, I mean, is wild. I didn't expect this many people to respond to this. This really did take off. We also did do a post on our community post here. We got a few we want to go over here. I'm not going to hit all of them just simply for the sake of time, because I think we're pushing 35 minutes. So if I don't get to yours, I do apologize, right? But we got Breathe YouTube here. 2,500 stones for a single unit is the same. They need to make it 500 stones or just drop them with the normal coins for each banner, right? 2,500 stones for a single copy. Buying stones with no whales. This is from Zoifer. And no sales at 93 stones for $45 means they value a unit at $1,200 a copy. I think this is a fair point, right? When you add in the monetary aspect of the cost, it's really it's really out of proportion, right? And he just makes a little joke. No wonder they haven't given us pity. Because of how much it actually costs, right? We got DNA Halo here. Love seeing people in the comments trash talking the coins. Meanwhile, day one of release, I was trash talking them as well and got hated for it. I'm glad people have come to their senses. Pity shouldn't be just for whales. I don't know that it's just for whales. I do disagree with that. Again, I think it's just the placement here that's really messing with that. 2,500 stones is way too many, right? We're hearing that. Absurdly high, 25 stones. All right. So bad. From Alphen here. We got, it's literally just yellow coins, but you need 2 times more. Yep, definitely see that. Taiga, to be honest, you think it's fine to be able to make use cross that. So that you can exchange for Tech UI, right? So like if you get the units, you can just exchange them, and if you're somebody who missed Tech UI, you can exchange for Tech UI. So I mean, a lot of the same sentiments we saw in Twitter, and we also did a community discussion over on Discord. I'm not going to go into that one because I can't really pull that up right now, but a lot of the same sentiments were there. A lot of our usual suspects on our channel did in fact respond in the community discussion. So you know, if you ever want to engage directly with me in these community discussions, you know, hop on into our Discord. It is linked in the description, and you can always respond directly, and we can have a conversation in real time about this. You would have probably heard my opinion long before this video dropped if you join the Discord. So yeah, please make sure you do that. So again, I want to give a huge shout out to Minato, Toon, and Ningen for hopping in here and sharing their thoughts. I know this is a long video, but you guys have waited long enough. What does CelticLink think of this system? Well, after reading all of your responses and really taking it in, right, I don't think that a single person here is wrong in their thoughts. If you think it's good, then you know, you're entitled to that belief, as well as if you think it's bad, right? You know, everybody has a certain expectation and their one, and it's not unrealistic for someone to expect something, right? Especially in a game that requires you to pay it money, right? So let me say this. I will say that I echo the sentiment of right, of Ningen and Toon and Minato, simply about the timing, and many of you, right, simply about the timing of this implementation on global, I think is probably the worst aspect of it. If this was implemented during anniversary over worldwide, I think it would be received with much greater reception, right? Because we would have had time to build it. But this implementation is coming in off of anniversary, a two-part anniversary with 4 major top-tier LRs, right? Especially with Beast Gohan, especially with Gogeta and Broly especially now, right? And then, you know, rolling into Tech UI, and then rolling into, I mean, most people probably didn't summon for Tobo, but that, and then into Cell Max, right? Like, and that was a pretty big ask for players, and I know most people probably skipped, you know, Cell Max, and probably skipped Topo, and I know even a few people skipped parts of the anniversary in order to save up for what was coming during worldwide, or just save straight up for Beast Gohan. So I also know plenty of people that got shafted completely in anniversary, like Ningen on the Gammas, for example, right? So, you know, the timing just could have been better. I think this should have been implemented during the anniversary, or not implemented at all during worldwide and implemented during 10th anniversary, right? The timing for global is just a poor timing. Now, I do think that 1,000 coins, right? The yellow coin pity system is far too little for a Dokkan Fest LR, right? Especially with how easy that is to obtain. Consider the fact that yellow coins don't usually hold the same value and don't usually last as long as their Dokkan Fest and Carnival LR counterparts, and also that those banners now include guaranteed features and you know, as well as other free LRs you can pull. So, you know, I think 1,000 coins is a bit, or 1,000 stones is a bit too cheap, you know, 200 coins. But I do think that 2,500, I agree with the sentiment, 2,500 is a bit too much. Realistically, I think it should have been somewhere around 1,250 to 1,500. I think that is a fair and reasonable amount to expect players to come in with, right? That would mean you would still have to come into a celebration with 1,000 stones or more. Okay, which means you do have to save, you do have to Dokkan responsibly, but it means if you don't get pity, you're not necessarily guaranteed it, but you can come pretty close to it after trading in some SSRs. You're probably not going to get for all 4, but at least it makes achieving 1 much more reliable. I think 500 coins makes sense when you're saving those coins up over months to come back and get the copy later. 500 coins, I think, makes sense. Right? Like, if you miss the trio now and you're picking them up in 6 months when they return, 500 coins makes sense because you will have had the opportunity to build that 500 coins over the course of 6 months. Doing it in a single celebration, I think, is a bit too much to ask for players. So hopefully they look at this to reduce the cost in the future. But in general, I think the system is good. I think it's a step in the right direction. And the fact that I think this is the most overlooked fact about this, right, is that they are exchangeable. All of the coins. So let's say you dump 900 stones into, right, the trio's banner. You can now exchange all of that into teal coins, right, and start working on Broly and get yourself pity towards one of the others. Or if you're someone like me who, you know, came pretty close to pity on both banners, you now have enough to pity both part 2 LRs without having to spend a single stone, right? So the fact that it is exchangeable throughout an entire celebration, I think, is really, really good and something that needs to be taken into an account. I think that that's probably the best aspect of it, and I hope that part continues, right? So all in all, I do think it is a great system, but the cost is just a bit too high, compounded by the fact that Global did a really poor job of implementing this due to the timeline of the sync. I think had they not tried to squeeze everything in the months of August, we probably would be in a better place for this. But at the current moment, not exactly the best. But we'll have to see how it evolves in the future. As I said earlier in the video, the best thing we can do when they offer the feedback forms at the end of the celebration, give it to them. Be polite, be nice, give it to them though. It'll be the best thing for us to watch this system grow in the future. They listen to us. They have shown this now with the implementation of the pity and the sync, so let's hope we can do this right for the future. So guys, that is it for the video. Thank you for sticking around on this journey. Thank you for responding. Shout out to all of you who took the time to respond. Shout out to Toon, shout out to Ningen, shout out to Minato for taking the time to respond to my questions, and shout out to all of you for offering your opinions, all of which I think are somewhat valid. I appreciate every single one of you, and I hope to do more community discussions like this. I do apologize for the length of the video. So guys, that is it for the video. If you like the video, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and in the comments down below, if you haven't already, share your thoughts. What do you think of the pity coin system, and do you Did anything here change your mind? I think that's a worthy conversation of having. Did anything here change your mind? Let us know in the comments down below. Otherwise, guys, as always, thanks for watching, and aloha.